Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Ben Kissel with Marcus Parks.
Hey, Ben.
Nice to have you, Marcus.
Nice to have you, Ben.
Now, you're no longer ass deep in Hubbard, I see.
No, I'm still fully ass deep in
You
Hubbard.
are ass deep in Hubbard?
I was just able to pull myself up for a second.
Well, let me shake off that Hubbard for you. That's good. Oh, yes. All right, we got a lot to get to today. The Republicans completely failed us when it comes to our rights to privacy, the Fourth Amendment. Who cares? Who wants an illegal search and seizure? It doesn't matter anymore, specifically not when it comes to the internet. In 2016, the Obama administration created a regulation that banned private corporations, ISPs, internet service providers, from selling your information, from disseminating your information to advertisers without your consent.
Not just advertisers. Anybody.
Anything, whatever you searched on social media, whatever you searched on Google can now just be sold to the highest or lowest bidder. Verizon, Comcast, AT&T, all of these companies now have access to basically your soul, the inner workings of your mind. If you go to somebody's Google search and you can see every single thing that they've looked up, you know things that their parents don't know about them, their spouses don't know about them, and dare I say what they don't even know about themselves. If they got a snapshot of everything that they've seen or Googled throughout the month, I think they'd have a much better understanding of who they are as a person. And now it's just going to go to marketers and anybody else who wants to use your information for anything that they want to use your information for. It's very interesting. I mean, the FBI has been creating these databases for quite a long time. They say the FBI, 80% of the databases, 80% of the names in the FBI database have been gathered by large Stingray technology. The Stingray just, of course, acts as a I always forget the name of those things. What do you call them? Cell tower. Just acts as a cell tower, although it's not a cell tower. It collects your information. These Stingrays, the Stingray technology, gives it to the FBI, the CIA, or whoever has set up that Stingray, perhaps the mafia or something like that. 80% of the information and names in the FBI database are of innocent civilians who have done nothing wrong whatsoever. And now, of course, they're coming out with retina technology when it comes to your eyes. I was talking about this the other day. I was arrested in New York City for helping a friend through a turnstile. Courtesy is illegal. Do not do it. The MTA wants that $2.50, and they will put you in jail for 23 hours if you refuse to give it to them. Of course, I was actually in jail because I had an open warrant for drinking on a stoop, which should also be legal.
Hey, I was there for that one.
You were there for that one? You've been there for a lot of my citations, I think. I failed to pay it. Next thing you know, I have a bench warrant and spent 23 hours in the tombs because of that. In that process of signing into the tombs, they did the retina scan, the whole thing. I believe they even took a DNA swab. So now they're going to be able to recognize my eyes from a long distance, and privacy is completely out the window for me because of the new retina technology that they're placing into the cameras that are on every single street corner and outside of every single apartment unit here in beautiful, well-surveillanced New York City.
Yeah, I really don't see how anybody could say that the Republican Party is for anything but money. I mean, that's what all of this is for. This is nothing but money. All this this does not benefit the American citizen. It does not benefit the American worker. It benefits nobody but the telecom companies.
Absolutely. And of course you have your John Cornyn's out of Texas, a Republican, saying this is going to it was an undue burden on businesses, this regulation.
John Cornyn received $148,800 from telecom companies.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that had anything to do with his opinion. I think it might have, John Cornyn. So with us constantly being surveilled on the streets and now surveilled on social media and the internet and in cyberspace, and cyberspace is real. It's a tangible place. It's just as real as your apartment or as whatever, wherever you are, as a restaurant. Cyberspace is a tangible place where people go, live their lives, and communicate. We saw that case. It was in one of the Nordic countries, I forget, but someone was playing Second Life. I believe it's called Second Life, right? Yep. and they stole a piece of furniture from a hotel, but the person paid real money to get that fake couch.
Yeah.
And then that person was charged in real court for theft. So, I mean, these places are real, and I think the Fourth Amendment does apply to cyberspace. And the fact that these bought and sold politicians refuse to recognize that, or they do recognize it, and it's even more nefarious. They're simply following the almighty dollar because we live in an era of constant campaigning. There is no one for the American people to turn to right now. Even the most, I suppose, well-established libertarian voice in the Republican Party, Rand Paul, he sold out and signed this and went for this deregulation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so who do we turn to now? If Rand Paul, the supposed libertarian, the supposed small government, stay out of our lives, man of the Republican Party can't even have the balls to stand up to these telecommunications companies and not allow them to break the Fourth Amendment, break the illegal search and seizure, and sell our data without our consent. If we can't even have Rand Paul stand up to them, then who do we got? We have absolutely nobody. Although the Democratic Party, of course, it was in the Senate, it was a straight partisan vote. It was 50-48. The Democratic Party, we got to give credit where credit is due. They were right on this, and they were right to pass the regulation in the first place. So hats off to you, Democrats. Good job.
And that's where we are. I mean, the Republicans are coming out more and more to say that the American does not matter, the American business matters. And those are two very different things. And I think that's what people are confusing right now, is there's a difference between the American business and the American worker. And what this administration is doing, what this Republican Party right now is doing, is that they are siding on the side of the American business, and they don't give a fuck about you.
And a lot of these things that are happening now with the peeling back of certain regulations, certainly when it comes to climate, we have the Paris climate deal.
Case in point, Donald Trump saying it's time to make America wealthy again.
Right. And, even ExxonMobil, now I believe ExxonMobil probably benefited from the Paris climate talks and agreement. I'm sure in some ways. I mean, ExxonMobil, they're intelligent enough to realize we are shifting more to a clean energy. As clean energy gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, we will be shifting more in that direction because it'll be more economic. And that's all they want, of course, as you just said. I mean, it's the bottom dollar. But as clean energy becomes more proficient, cheaper, there's no reason why they won't go in that direction. But Donald Trump, of course, talking about how he wants to put coal miners back to work. So they can continue to get black lung and die young. But I mean, to some degree, I do think that that is good. Coal miners, having a job and things like that, obviously. But it doesn't seem like it's going to actually put a lot of coal miners back to work. His new initiatives to limit some of the regulations. If anything, a lot of those regulations led to jobs. It led to a business environment that was safer for a lot of the coal miners as well. So he's also repealing certain regulations that led to a safer workplace for these individuals that he's promising to protect and put back to work. And that's why I made the joke about black lung. He's literally just like, no more work hours, no more hard hats. No need to wear anything over your mouth. Just get on down there, and you know what? Your hands are shovels now. So just do it like that. But you're back at work.
If there's anything that's going to cost your employer more than $1, he don't got to do it, and you got to fend for yourself. Have fun,
like you're trying to find a seat on Southwest Airlines. Lord of the Flies. Marcus and I, speaking of businesses making bad decisions, Southwest Airlines, they do a thing where they brag about not. Have we talked about this yet?
We have not. No.
They brag about not doing seating assignments. So basically, you just have to fight for your seat and negotiate and politic with people who are just grumpy. They're flying. They don't want to fly. And it's a waking nightmare. Yeah. Especially for me. I had to sit in the middle aisle, in the middle seat towards the end of the flight, our final flight coming back from Utah.
Salt Lake City, yeah.
Salt Lake City. And the horror in the eyes of the people as I was making my way down the sky.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Look at it. It's coming for us. And the sky waitress is like, there's no more aisle seats. I'm like, oh, my God. No more window seats. Oh, no. And the sweat, you could see them start to perspirate. Mm-hmm. And, it could have been a deodorant commercial. If you're like, Monster sitting next to you? Try Degree. Active sit. it's been a really interesting time now with the Trump administration. We're going to start seeing, we're seeing what it is becoming, and it's becoming. He is holding true to some of the things he said on the campaign trail, although, of course, he's also distancing himself from other things that he said on the campaign trail, specifically, his LGBTQ stances and certain things like that. He sort of pulled the rug under the people that he promised to be the most supportive president in history to, such as gay individuals and people of the LGBTQ community who are extremely upset with what they're seeing happening in Washington on a regular basis, and rightfully so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's getting to the point now where I think most people are extremely upset. I think once the actual cost of the wall really starts coming through and people start really seeing what it's going to take to build this goddamn monstrosity, I think people are going to start getting upset about that too.
Well, the billions and billions of dollars, I think it's been anywhere from $6 to $15 billion are the numbers that are being thrown around. If we know anything about Washington, it's going to be more expensive than less expensive. So I would always err on the side of $15 billion plus.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, individuals, them, and we talked about this in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, cutting the Coast Guard by $2 billion. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that obviously the vast majority of drugs and human smugglers come in through our oceans, where, we have huge borders there in the ocean. Maybe building a wall there might be good. Save Los Angeles. Maybe that might be a better idea if we built some walls on our ocean borders as opposed to our border with Mexico.
Well, that's what a lot of people, the reluctant Trump voters, as they were called, they said that they voted for him like, he's not going to build the wall. That's just talk. That's just bluster. But he's actually going to do it. And I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, wait, one fucking minute. What do we have to give up to get this stupid symbolic monstrosity across our borders through Big Bend National Park? One of the most beautiful parks that we have in the entire country.
Well, it'll look really nice with a wall. I always say that. That's always good. Travis Irvine, who was on the last episode, does have a good idea. Instead of a wall, make it a bead curtain, which I thought that was pretty funny. So I got to give him credit for that.
I like that.
Make it just a big old bead curtain. And then people wouldn't come in because they think we're a bunch of gypsies or something, which that could also be very fun. It's been an interesting week for rhetoric as well. We were coming back from San Francisco, and we were on the Virgin flight together, and I caught 60 Minutes. Scott Pelley was doing a story on fake news, and they had a conversation with Mike Cernovich. He's the author of, I believe it's called Guerrilla Mindset. Anyway, the man's a total bigot. He has said horrible things about sexual assault, being basically for it, and that's not an exaggeration. And now he has a website that is propagating and disseminating huge amounts of fake news, because we live in an era now, and I was talking about this when I got to do that radio program on Monday. We live in an era of monetized lies, where advertisers see the click, they see the amount of attention that your website gets because of these clickbait fake ads, whether it be that Hillary Clinton has dementia or a whole series of other things that are far too sensational to be true, but they fit into people's narratives that they want to have manifested in reality. So they go into that with confirmation bias, they click on it, and that's what the advertisers see. They monetize these lies by then looking at those numbers and advertising on these sites, and that's what's happening across the board with the left and the right.
Absolutely. If you want to look at the left, go no further than BuzzFeed and Pissgate.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The dossier.
The dossier.
But you know what that is? That did get Henry into politics. Henry Zabrowski, of course.
That is fucked up.
He does not stop talking about Pissgate.
Very true. He does not stop talking about Pissgate. That's when he's like, oh, there's piss in politics? Okay. Yes,
I'm on it. I am taking the lead on this story.
But yeah, it is both sides that are all about those almighty clicks, man. They just want to say anything, and they can say it could be true. They say it might be true. Well, sources are saying.
The onus is on us to prove it to be untrue. So now we live in this new world where it used to be the individual who was speaking had to prove themselves to be honest, had
Yeah.
to prove themselves to be trustworthy, and now the onus is on the audience to prove themselves to be false, to prove that person to be wrong. And it doesn't make it's a total flip of how it's supposed to go. That's why we can't trust anybody, and that's why you have politicians with such low approval ratings and somebody like Donald Trump able to rise through the ranks because everyone had such disdain and distrust for Washington to begin with. They said, well, let's put somebody in there who's a total scumbag because that's what they deserve. And I talked about this. I believe you were on that episode when I interviewed with Tom Shalhoub, the host of Red Eye. He just, he's a pro-Trumper, and just getting some insight on his reasons behind it. It's because they have such disdain for the White House. They have such disdain for the Oval Office. They believe that somebody like Donald Trump is the amount of respect that office deserves. And that's how they see it. They say it's not a monarchy.
Yeah, but
it's not, I guess it's an oligarchy
the
now.
The presidency is not symbolic. Like that's it's not. It's a job. It is it's an actual job. That is such a childish way of thinking about things.
It is a childish way of thinking.
That's
about
what a
things
teenager does.
Well, and certainly without a doubt, Donald Trump does tug on those teenage heartstrings of raging against the man and I'm going to show you, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote fine Donald Trump then. And he's not right. And he's not politically correct. I don't even care that he's not politically correct. I just wish that he was competent in the job that he has in front of him.
Yeah, it's a job. That's what I mean. That, and I really don't get that. Like so many, because I know these are intelligent people that are holding these opinions, but I just don't know when Americans forgot that the President of the United States is a job. It's not like the Queen of England. The Queen of England is a symbolic position. She goes out, she shakes hands, she meets with foreign dignitaries. That's fine. The President makes decisions. The President has an actual job to do, a very difficult job to do.
But that is the interesting thing as we continue now to prop up corporations as an extension of government, which is what's sort of happening now with the melding. We have Jared Kushner, obviously the husband of Ivanka Trump, and Ivanka now with security clearance over people like more power in information than General Joseph Dunford, who is a war hero in the United States. His nickname is Fightin' Joe. Isn't that kind of fun?
It's not Dumphy?
It's not Dumphy, no. Although I do think Dumphy would be better. No. Well, you have two choices, Fightin' Joe or Dumphy. Well, let me see. Am I a cartoon elephant? No. I'm a soldier. I'm a general. Let's go with Fightin' Joe.
Gotcha.
But Ivanka Trump now has more security clearance than he does, or on par security clearance than he does. But of course, Ivanka is much closer to the President Trump, being her father, than Mr. Dunford. So it is a very
Didn't Trump
interesting.
say that he wouldn't give his children security clearance?
He did.
Yeah.
And this goes into a similar situation. And I'm forgetting the name of the law. Maybe you could. It's just the nepotism law. I believe it was 1967 when it came around. Maybe 1964. You can find that out. Either way, it was the 60s. The nepotism law came in, and Hillary Clinton was one that the Republicans blamed or were attempting to say that this law would stop Hillary Clinton from being in charge of health care in the 90s. So the Republicans tried to use this against Hillary Clinton having a much larger role than previous first ladies in the White House. And now we have Ivanka Trump, who, in my opinion, national security, although healthcare is very important, specifically in the 90s when we had no safety net whatsoever for individuals with pre-existing conditions, a whole series of other things. I would still say national security. Nuclear weapons are very, very important and a huge priority for this country. So the fact that a woman who is literally selling clothes at Nordstrom's, or was it Bloomington?
It was Nordstrom's.
Nordstrom's is now also privy to information that 4-star generals who worked their entire careers to become privy to that information so they could be in that room. She just... right out of the clothing business into one of the most powerful positions that a civilian can have.
We're becoming a country run by rich kids.
We are the definition of it. We are a country run by rich kids, and we have been for quite some time. And Donald Trump is simply an actual face.
But at the very least, before, those rich kids kind of had to be go through some sort of process. They had to go through politics at the very least.
Well,
now it's just, that is Donald Trump giving his child a toy. I mean, that's what that is.
Well, I have to defend my Ivanka. I always love Ivanka. She's the only classy person in the whole Trump family.
Classy, fine, sure. She's probably great at selling clothes. I'm sure she is.
She's very good.
But when you're giving this woman, when you're giving her more power and more knowledge than a 4-star general,
yeah.
I mean, why? What is that? Why is he doing that?
I think as the leaks continue to come out of the White House, obviously the Russian scandal, which we could get into, but we're going to hold off a little bit more. We'll get more into that in the next episode. It's such a large deal, but we're at this point we haven't learned as we know about Paul Manafort. There's some connections there from a 2008 deal that he made with a Russian oligarch. Obviously, it's being called Flingazi, which also reminds me of a great punk group, which I kind of like with General Michael Flynn. Those stories are going to continue to percolate and come through the pipe, and I do believe Michael Flynn might end up in cuffs, so who knows?
I mean, there's a shit ton of smoke here, but, I'd say let's wait for some fire on this one.
Yeah, Trey Gowdy, I would love to see Trey Gowdy arrested and have to do a perp walk. That prosecutor, that scumbag, the amount of people that he has put in prison for God knows what small offenses.
Right now, all the Russian stuff is like, that's interesting. Like the Sally Yates stuff and the Nunes stuff, it's all like, that's very interesting, but right now it's all very interesting.
And Nunes, of course, they did set up a congressional hearing. Sally Yates, of course, she was the former attorney general. She was the one who was let go because she refused to enact Donald Trump's 7-country travel ban. That was before they amended it to the 6th country travel ban that is out there now, oftentimes called the Muslim ban, for better or for worse. When it comes to that, I think there's some political branding going on with calling it the Muslim ban.
Well, he branded it.
But yes, of course, he did. He did. I understand.
He said in a tweet it was a Muslim ban.
Yes,
it's pretty clear.
Yes. If he had half a brain, that's why it's almost impossible to defend it. Because yes, he did. Even though it's technically not, it's about 13% of the world's Muslim population, and you could argue those nations are too destabilized to really to be able to find terrorists and things like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So yes, we will get into that, and I just want to see Manafort testify. I want to see Roger Stone testify.
I want to see Roger Stone testify.
Sally Yates, when she testifies, we'll keep you up to date on all that information. At this point, again, there's a bunch of sort of Matthew McConaughey strings from True Detective, and everything does seem to be coming back to Russia, and of course, Russia is the only country that Donald Trump has yet to offend. Which tells you a lot about how much he likes them, because he hasn't gone above and beyond to be an asshole to them. So that's about as nice as the guy can get, I think.
Yeah.
But going back to the corporations melding with government, Jared Kushner now, obviously, again, the husband of Ivanka Trump, who has security clearance, just to make that clear once again, has said they're going to run government like a corporation, which makes us customers, I suppose, in their mind. And it doesn't...
Or does it make us employees?
No, they don't want employees. They don't want employees.
I'm really not sure, because if we're customers, that means we're paying them for a service.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Taxes.
Every single tax.
So taxes. So we are customers, and they are a business.
They're a business, and they're not going to be beholden to our well-being whatsoever, but they will be collecting our money. And taxes.
But that's not that, because there's no other choice. We can't go to a different business. If it was a business, then we would have the choice. We would have market choice to go to a different government to pay for.
Let's do multiple governments. I suppose theoretically those would be state governments, I guess. More chain stores. Things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is it's a different way of governance. And the question is, can you take a corporate model and put it into a government model, as we saw with the ACA, with the repeal and their attempt to replace with Ryan Care, who, by the way, we'll get into that in a second. As we saw their complete ineptitude when dealing with the Freedom Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
The Freedom Caucus is, I believe, it's anywhere from 22 to 27 people. Jim Jordan is the man who began the Freedom Caucus. Ted Cruz is a part of it. Mike Lee, the senator out of Utah, is a part of it. It's kind of ironic the Freedom Caucus is anonymous. Mm-hmm. Very ironic, as a matter of fact. they were not able to make the correct adjustments that the Trump administration and Ryan and Mitch McConnell were not able to make the right adjustments in order for it to pass the House. And by the luckiest man of the week was Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
The fact that the Senate did not have to vote on this health care is huge.
Yeah, he got out of that scot-free.
Scot-free. And Paul Ryan, the man who got into the speakership role like a child, going to the dentist office, kicking and screaming, did not want this role at all, is being proven very correct in his understanding of how difficult the position is. There's a reason John Boehner smoked 3 packs of Newports a day. He's like, this is almost, I want to die. Can I die already? Newport, take my life.
I mean, Ryan not only got one of the hardest jobs in government, he got it under a Trump presidency.
Right. A man who he did not actually actively support.
Yeah, I mean, it's being in his position would be difficult under a normal presidency.
Well, in Paul Ryan's perfect America, Hillary Clinton would be president. He could still be a part of the opposition party. Mm-hmm. And the Democrats right now who get to be in the opposition and a bonus get to be in the minority, that's where you want to be politically.
Yeah.
Because you can make all the promises in the world. You can be obstructionist as much as you want. It doesn't matter because you're in the minority. So it's actually a great time for the Democratic Party if you are in office.
If the Democratic Party actually does their homework. Because the Republican Party were in the opposition for 8 years. You know, they said repeal, replace. Yep. And then when it came time for them to finally repeal and replace Obamacare, they had nothing. I mean, what they came up with was, it was obviously something that was thrown together at the last minute.
The irony is it wasn't. If you go and talk to Paul Ryan promised, almost like Joe McCarthy with his suitcase, with his briefcase. He's like, I've got all the names of the communists. It's full of nudie mags and vodka. Yeah. Paul Ryan, for 7 years, was saying he has it under lock and key, his health care plan. This was it.
Really?
This is it. This is the policy wonk. I think we throw that term around far too much. Hall Ryan, he's been in office since 1999. He had since 2009 to figure out a bill. This was it. This is his his Magna Carta.
That's the best they could do.
That's it. And it couldn't pass the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah.
And then of course, going back to this whole corporation versus government, Donald Trump tweets out, archaic rules have stopped it. The archaic rule it's the House.
He said we found out about that. He said in his statement, in his verbal statement, that we found out about some archaic rules in the House. We learned a lot today.
It's the House.
What do you mean, like
it's
voting?
It's been there for 240 years. Yeah. How do you think it works?
It's just voting.
That's how, but that is, that's going to be the interesting, take a corporate model, put it into a government and see how it works. Because obviously it's he's not a CEO. He has to understand he is a president and these are very different positions because they wield a different amount of power. Presidents have the bully pulpit. They have the ability to, manipulate and kind of, compromise. They do have a lot of power, but it's not a CEO.
No, not at all. And, as far as putting corporations into government, I mean, most people don't know is that before Richard Nixon signed it into law, healthcare was not allowed to be a for-profit business.
It's very interesting.
Until the 70s. And then in the 70s, healthcare became a for-profit business. Now see where we are with that. See how well that when we started treating healthcare as a business, see how well that fucking worked out. And now we want to do the same thing to government?
It's very interesting. And when it comes to the healthcare debate with Donald Trump talking about how they're willing to let Barack Obama's they're willing to allow Obamacare, as it's been coined, to implode. The American people that is so disturbing to them. Yeah. They don't care. And Donald Trump talking about how, Nancy Pelosi's going to wear it around her neck. It's going to be the noose around her neck. The American people this is why he got elected, are so sick of these inside games. No one cares if Nancy Pelosi's upset. No one gives a shit if she's happy. No one cares about Nancy Pelosi. They care about their wallet, their health care, and their family. So get something done.
Yeah.
It's no one can hang their hat on oh my God, okay, sure, my premiums just went through the roof, but I heard Nancy Pelosi is unhappy. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, it was like I was watching, Game of Thrones the other day, and I was watching, he's like, there's a war between the fucking Lannisters and the Starks, and I was thinking, it's like, man, wouldn't it really suck to live in a time where these petty feuds between these two people affected so many thousands upon thousands of people? Wouldn't that really suck? And then I thought, oh, fuck.
That's right. It is happening, and it never really hasn't happened, but it hasn't. I had a chance to interview Mark McKinnon. He's the executive producer for The Circus. It's on Showtime. It's absolutely wonderful. And, he was the one who worked with the Ann Richards of Texas and W. Bush. She's a political
Ann
operative.
Richards, rest in peace, wonderful woman.
Absolutely. If you just want to watch Futurama, she is Maud. Is that the character? Or Mom, something like that. But he was saying this is the most hostile he's ever seen it.
Yeah.
And this is a man who's been around for decades in political life, and he hasn't seen anything like it when it comes to the polarization of the political parties. And of course, it's because of gerrymandering and redistricting. Our soil is so tainted. It is flowering, produce that is just as tainted. The soil of the country is producing politicians that are completely flawed flowers, and they have no incentive to work whatsoever. So we have to change all of that. I mean, it's so institutional, the problems happening right now.
Well,
it's so ingrained in our roots of politics right now.
Yeah, well, these people have no incentive to work for us. They only have an incentive to make their own jobs better, because you've got these people, they know that they're, because of gerrymandering, they know that they're going to get elected next year. They know that they're going to be coming back. So what their main goal is to make their own life in Washington easier.
Even Representative Steve King out of Iowa, who basically tweeted about white genocide. For those that don't know what the alt-right means, and I want to talk a little bit more about Mike Cernovich and his 60 Minutes interview with his fake news website. When alt-right talk about white genocide, that's interracial.
Yeah.
There's just interracial children.
Yeah.
That's what they mean by it. I mean, that's how primitive these thoughts are. We're back in the 30s. We're back in the 20s.
Miscegenation.
It's insane, and it goes back to the trans bill in North Carolina that the Republicans put forward. It's not about bathrooms, just like it wasn't about water fountains, which I thought was actually a fairly good meme that I read. But that's true. We're going backwards on certain things, and it's really fascinating to see. Things can get worse. We always have in our minds things progress, things get better, but things can go backwards, as we're seeing right now.
Well, I think it's because a lot of people in our generation, things did get better for a long time.
Sure.
Like where you just saw every year, people kind of seemed to be a little bit better, a little bit more tolerant. Things started to be a little bit more in the past, and now we're really starting to see, like, oh shit, things can go the other way sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, what is that, where there's a famous quote by somebody where it's like, there is no history, or there is no past, or something like that. There is no future, there's just now, or something like that. Where I don't know. I just made it up. I said it.
There is no history. There is no future. There is no past.
There's just now.
Ben Kissel.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This sounds like a really fun author. There is just the present. There's no past. There's no future. There's just the present. Sounds like it's vaguely biblical, actually.
Yeah, a little bit.
So when it comes to Mike Cernovich on 60 Minutes, they weren't nearly hard enough on the guy, and we are living now, going back to this hyper polarization, where we're politicizing horrible events on both sides. There's a case in Maryland right now involving two illegal immigrants. It's a rape case involving a 14-year-old girl. We're not going to get into the actual case because, frankly, we don't know. But the right is politicizing it with the immigration debate. And then, of course, we have the situation with James Jackson, a Baltimore man who came up from Baltimore to New York City to stab a young black man. Instead, he stabbed a 66-year-old black dude named Timothy Kaufman. And the left is politicizing that as well. And of course, the Pizzagate guy Edgar Madison Welch, who went into Comet Pizza. It's actually called Comet Ping Pong Restaurant, which is kind of fun. and shot up the place. Everything is getting hyper politicized as opposed to just recognizing all of those events are horrible.
Yeah.
Regardless if you're left or right, it doesn't matter. Every one of those events is horrible. And the individuals, and I'll focus a little bit more on the alt-right here when it comes to James Jackson and Edgar Madison Welch. And when I say the alt-right, I'm lumping in Alex Jones as well with that. Alex Jones isn't paying this guy's legal bills. When it comes to Edgar Madison Welch, Alex Jones doesn't live on the streets. He doesn't live in the neighborhoods that he's affecting. Rush Limbaugh doesn't live in the neighborhoods that he's affecting. They don't actually live in areas where their rhetoric manifests itself in reality. So they can continue talking. They can continue the Cernoviches of the world. They can continue propagating hatred. They can continue doing all these things because, again, they are getting clicks and they are getting their lies to be monetized. These monetized lies that we're living in. James Jackson, this man is a follower of the new normalization of racial tension that's happening in this country, and we have to look at the people who are propagating that kind of rhetoric, and at no point do they take responsibility for the fact that their words really have a real-world effect. They don't have it. Rush Limbaugh lives in a mansion in Florida. He gets blown by whatever 30-year-old girl he wants to date at the time. He can do whatever he wants, pop in as many pills as he wants. He doesn't live on the streets of Iowa, Indiana, Wisconsin, where people who listen to him actually enact his philosophies in real life. They are the ivory tower. We talk about the ivory tower so many times when it comes to academics and them not being in touch with the real world, and I agree with that as well. I mean, academics will throw random things out there and just pretend like they're true, and meanwhile, that same academic won't even go to a Starbucks if the sign is a little dirty or something like that. But we have it on the left. That's their own ivory tower. These talk radio personalities and these website. Now the right wing radio has shifted to right wing websites.
Yeah.
And that's where the power now is on the right wing. And they don't live in that world. Cernovich is a lawyer. He lives in a beautiful home in California.
Yeah.
He doesn't live in these communities that are affected by the things that he says or by the lies that his website puts out there.
Well, the problem with people like Alex Jones is that I think they can bolster some of these people into feeling like they're heroes. I mean,
then that certainly happened with Welch there.
Yeah, it happened with the Pizzagate guy, and it also it sounds like it happened with this guy here in New York City. James Jackson. It sounds like it happened with him as well because this guy, his whole thing was that he wanted to discourage interracial relationships.
Again,
and he took his stupid fucking nerd sword,
18-inch nerd sword. Yes, indeed.
Because that's what these guys are. They're fucking nerds. He took his 18-inch nerd sword from Baltimore up to New York City. And by the way, why does he have to come? He went to New York City to maximize press coverage, right?
I'm sure. I mean, who knows what was going on in this wacko's mind?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. That he came to New York City because he thought if he did it in New York instead of Baltimore, then it would get more press coverage. And he was right.
Yeah.
Because we're covering him right now. But this guy was convinced that he was going to be a hero.
And where are we getting this from? Why are we getting this new stigma on interracial relationships? It is coming from the alt-right.
That's the only place it's coming from the alt-right.
I mean, obviously, you have your fringe groups on the left, what is the name of the people who always yell outside of Penn Station?
Oh, there's a lot of them.
It's an Islamic name, or I forget the name of it. These groups do happen. They do have power on both the left and the right, but at the end of the day, the alt-right is more in my crosshairs because they have somebody who relates to them in the White House.
Yeah.
They have real power in this country right now, and it is something that has to be nipped in the bud. Because we are going backwards on these civil rights issues, and they're leading to James Jackson going and wanting to kill a black man for what you just said, because he doesn't want to have interracial babies. This man was 66 years old. I don't think he was having an interracial baby anytime soon. I think he was done.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that's why he wanted to go kill a young black dude.
Yeah.
Because the insecurity in these people. That's what it comes down to, is this man was insecure in his own masculinity, and this is this trope as old as time. Black men are more masculine than white men. White men better degrade, discredit, and eliminate them as much as they possibly can. I mean, and that's the kind of place that we're going to get.
I mean, it really all just sounds like that this guy had really liked a girl, and the girl ended up dating a black guy, and for some reason that really fucking set him off.
Could be, who knows?
I mean, that's what it sounds. I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds pretty fucking cut and dried. I mean, I guarantee you, this guy wasn't going out and dating.
He said that he wanted this James Jackson character. He said he wanted to get a thrill. He thought it would be really thrilling. And apparently, once he realized that he killed an older gentleman, he said the thrill was gone.
Oh, no.
Yes. Just
Sorry,
like
it got fucking ruined for you, buddy.
Yeah, he said he didn't get the high that he really wanted to. I guess he smoked some bad dope, and it didn't work out for him. And so he didn't even get the satisfaction that he thought he was going to get. But why did he even feel that he was going to get satisfaction doing that?
Because he thought he was going to be a hero.
Because he thought that because you get sucked into and stuck in these echo chambers, and you see it. I mean, the left, my Twitter feed is just it's all echo chamber talk. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we're seeing that with the websites, with the monetized lies. The echo chamber is just larger than ever, and it's smaller. It's small echo chambers, and the alt-right was a small echo chamber that expanded and ballooned out because it gave identity to people who were previously, in their minds, they thought that they were being demoralized and being shrunk. And the alt-right is like all classic, almost cults. It's like, okay, you don't have to agree with us on everything, but I'm sure you feel a little bit sad, right? Mm-hmm. And they got these white people.
Yeah, you feel sad. Have you ever wondered why you feel sad?
Is it somebody else's fault, possibly? black guy. And it's cult behavior 101, which is why they are having such a difficult time separating the fact that when you make fun of Donald Trump, you're not making fun of them as a whole. Mm-hmm. You're not. They refuse to make fun, or they refuse to acknowledge that Donald Trump is not doing things in an effective way at this point. And they refuse to acknowledge that when you have a president who simply signs executive order after executive order, who is worse than Obama. Obama only signed, I believe it was 243. W had more, and Clinton had the most with roughly 350. I believe W had 293, and then Obama was less than that. When you have somebody who is doing things that are worse than his predecessor, and you demonize his predecessor for doing it.
Golf vacations, case in point.
Golf vacations, he's already had 13. Obama didn't go on his first golf vacation until 6 months in. That, to me, is the easiest promise of all time to live up to. Don't go. It's like you don't have
just don't go golfing.
Don't go.
And also don't lie about it when you do go golfing. When they said that President Trump's going to work throughout the weekend in the White House,
he did.
Like that was some big fucking deal that he was going to work through the fucking weekend.
He should be. It's the White House. It's supposed to be fun. Go put a video game arcade in the basement. I run a
stupid fucking podcast network and I work through the weekend, but I don't want a goddamn pat on the back for it.
It's unbelievable. So they just refuse to acknowledge when he makes mistakes, and it is because currently they are blinded by their ideology, but then they're also just blinded by hate for the other side.
Yeah.
And this is happening on the left and the right. Everyone is just blinded by hate on the other side, and whenever you have your intention, if your intention is solely to demoralize and make the other side sad, you are never going to find a candidate that actually can bring both sides together and uplift you, as a matter of fact. Whenever you win a fight, whether it be physical or a verbal altercation, you don't really feel that good. You're like, yeah, I made him cry. Okay, fine. Thank God. Yeah. But and that's the one thing now that the left has to work on. They cannot simply be the party of obstruction. They have to find some voices that have a galvanizing effect and have a message that they can actually transcend what the Democratic Party is currently doing and be more than just let's try to make them feel bad. We need a candidate. The Democratic Party needs a candidate that can actually make those constituents who voted for Donald Trump, who will definitely be looking for another option in 2020, because people are absolutely livid with what he's doing with Medicaid and all those sorts of things. They need to find a candidate who can get those people on, and you're not going to be able to do that if if the goal of your campaign or the goal of your party is to make those people feel bad.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. You got to get the best way to eliminate an enemy is to make them your friend, and that's what they have to do. And we'll see. We're 2 months in, 2.5 months in. So the Democratic Party now is simply obstructionist. They have some time. They just fired, the new Tom Perez, the new head of the DNC. They just completely gutted it. They fired everybody who was with the DNC. Mm-hmm. They fired everyone.
Really?
So they're redoing it. They're rebranding. This is the time. If you're the Democratic Party, this is the time. Get people in there that aren't just about hating on the other side, that actually have a message that will resonate with the American people. Because as Donald Trump showed us, people are so starved for anyone who will just listen to them. And the thing with Donald Trump, he is just as dumb as them.
Yeah.
And that worked out very well. I'm not demonizing other people for being stupid. I think he actually spoke down to them in a lot of ways. But he, that was all part of the song and dance that he did.
He said that he could murder someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they wouldn't care.
Yes.
I mean, that's tantamount to saying that he told them, you are dumb sheep that will follow me no matter what. I can murder someone and you will still follow me, and I love it, and so do you.
And that's
and you know what they did when he said that?
Well, it's very Putin-esque. And if you look at Putin's 1999 campaign after Boris Yeltsin completely diminished the Soviet Union, obviously it dissolved underneath him. Putin was absolutely pissed. Putin ran on the exact same platform that Donald did in 2016. Make Russia great again was basically all that Putin was saying, and you can see the tactics being very similar, which of course plays into the larger Russian ties, and that's why Donald Trump, who praised Putin for hacking Hillary Clinton, who praised him for his leadership style, not realizing that he will not have the 80% approval rating that Putin has in Russia, because America is much larger and much smarter than the Russian people.
Well, let's not forget that Manafort was Trump's campaign manager longer than Bannon was.
And yes, and of course the people of Russia, 50% of the television, and basically 100% of television is owned by the government, and 50% of the industry is owned by the government. And now, finally, to wrap it all up, with government becoming a corporation, what does that mean? Does government when they start to bleed into each other? Is that an oligarchy? Sounds like an oligarchy to me.
When business,
when
that's an oligarchy.
That's an oligarchy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it seems like to me, and that's the slippery slope that we have that we're seeing now happen right before our eyes.
They want an oligarchy. If there's one thing that Donald Trump wants, is an oligarchy.
That's basically what the policies that he's putting in place right now would lead to.
We've been running towards an oligarchy for a long time now, and and a lot of people argue that we have been an oligarchy for quite a few years already.
Yep, technocracy or kleptocracy, whatever you want to say. But certainly you can see the signs are there for an oligarchy to be put in place. Oligarchy also sounds like a great name for a punter, who can just every time
Ron Oligarchy.
There he is, and the ball just explodes every time he hits it. They're like, technically, you're really powerful, but that's a horrible punt. They get it right, the ball right there. All right, well, that's Marcus Parks. You can find him on Twitter at Marcus Parks and Instagram at Marcus Parks. I'm on Twitter at Ben Kissel, Instagram Ben Kissel1. I've got to download it in my phone again. I got a new phone. I have yet to download it. And let's see. I think we got the shirts.
Yeah.
I want to thank the listener out in San Francisco. He's running for the 12th district. I believe it was San Jose, but email me, man, benk721@gmail.com. Email me and keep me up to date on that. And I got some fun campaign news coming up here. We're almost starting to fundraise.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to put the fun in fundraising. Is that right? We're going to put the, well, you know what? Scratch that part. No, I'm just joking. But we're going to have a lot of great times. And everyone at CCR is going to be involved in the campaign. And we're going to be smart. And we're going to be funny. And we're just going to hopefully inspire everyone to get involved.
I got you. Put the sing in fundraising.
That's it. So we'll get the cowmen to do a political ad for us, and it'll be
no one's going to be better for Brooklyn than a country band.
Well, absolutely not. Yeah, that'll be good. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Go buy a T-shirt. We'll talk to you soon.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.